This is Brian at Atlanta Hot Tub Center, and today I want to talk about chemical connection, the chlorine or bromine chemical connection. And right now you guys are probably thinking, what the heck are you talking about? Well, first things first, happy Thanksgiving everybody. I hope everybody has a great turkey day if you're celebrating this year. But let's talk about this. A lot of times people don't understand that all these chemicals are really connected. And what I mean by that is it's not necessarily that they're the same chemical, but each chemical affects another chemical, right? So let's start, all right? Let's start with alkalinity. Guys, I don't want to dig too deep into the chemistry, right? I just want to talk about what each of these things means for you as you're trying to maintain your hot tub. So let's call alkalinity the base, okay? So if your alkalinity isn't correct or in the ideal range, your pH is going to fluctuate a lot more often. Doesn't matter if you use a buffer like pH balance or perfect pH or all these different buffers that they have for pH. Once you balance it, you balance your pH and you put the buffer in to help you kind of hold it in place, to help you lock that pH level in place. But no matter what, general use of the hot tub is going to change your chemical regimen in your hot tub. So if you want that pH to really stay in the ideal range, guys, you got to get your alkalinity in place first, because that is what's really going to help you to hold the pH in balance. All right, so alkalinity affects pH levels. Okay, now pH levels affect chlorine. Okay, so what I mean by this is if your water is acidic, if your pH levels are very high or they're very low, you can add as much chlorine as you want into the hot tub, but that chlorine is not going to be very effective, and it's not going to stay in the water for a very long time. And you're going to find yourself adding chlorine, and that is because your pH is not in the ideal range. Here in Georgia, we don't have to deal with a lot of calcium, but calcium can also affect a lot in the hot tub. You start talking about hardness problems, you can talk about foaming, you can talk about calcium deposits, you can talk about cloudy water, some different things like that. But again, here in Georgia, we don't have to deal with a lot of calcium, but if it is way off, I would suggest adding a little bit of calcium up to the hot tub or adjusting it down. The biggest thing to know is when you're adding calcium, you must be very, very, very careful. Never add calcium with any other chemical. I'm telling you guys, I've seen it before. People add calcium right after they add some pH buffer or something along those lines, and you have something called Arctic blast. It's when you have this white residue over everything in the hot tub, all over your jetting, all over your filter. It gets in your inner plumbing. Now you've got to purge the system and everything else. So beware, be careful, and add in very small amounts the calcium. And furthermore, don't add it with another chemical. Wait 24 hours before you even touch that calcium increaser. Now, it's important to understand when we talk about chlorine and bromine, I just want to talk about this right now. We've talked about the connection. Let's talk about really drilling down, maintaining your hot tub properly. When you use your hot tub, there's chlorine in that water, and you get in there, and what you find is the bacteria from your body goes in the water, the chlorine invades and destroys it, right? Or the bromine starts the process. Bromine takes a little bit longer, but ultimately you're left with something called chloramines or bromamines once the process of killing the bacteria is over, is done. And that can make water cloudy, it can make it smell, it can make it foamy, and that's why we use shock oxidizer, because shock oxidizer will clean up those chloramines. It'll clean up those bromamines, which are the waste from chlorine or bromine. It's important to understand that so that you can adjust, so that you can figure out the best regimen for you and your family. Now, again, we need to get the alkalinity, we need to get the pH right? Once those things are done, we got the chlorine in the water, and that's the actual process it goes through. I like to tell people that once you add some chlorine, if you have the time, add you a tablespoon of shock every time you're done using it, right? Because you get in there, that chlorine starts to invade and destroy the bacteria, you're left with those chloramines. Now you're getting out, you're throwing that tablespoon of shock in there. It's just really gonna go to the longevity and the quality of your water. And guys, this is kind of the basics. I do hope that this kind of helps you to kind of understand chemical regimen. I know that there's a lot of different things that you can see online, and different hot tubs are different, but this is really the basics. And all hot tubs, all hot tub manufacturers really kind of abide by this, and so this is kind of the basics. Again, if you have a self-cleaning system, that can change the amount of chlorine you're adding as well by limiting the growth of bacteria and killing bacteria as it circulates through that self-cleaning system in your hot tub, and you really just need to talk to whoever your dealer is so you know what your self-cleaning system is, so you understand it, and that can change as well. And remember, everybody's regiment's going to be different, guys. So like when people come into the store and they say, hey, Brian, what am I going to spend on chemicals every month? Well, we don't know, because we don't know how many people are using it. We don't know the bathing load and so forth, and how long they're going to use it and all that good stuff. So ultimately, that's a really hard question. Everybody's got to find their regiment on how they're going to maintain their hot tub, but it's always good to start with the basics. This is Brian at Atlanta Hot Tub Center and the Chlorine Connection. Thanks.